Good day and welcome everyone. It is John the Net Guy. We are having a fun impromptu live stream today only because my Mac Mini M4 showed up. It's not the Pro. I didn't have that kind of coin, but I have been using Macs forever. I use a MacBook Pro M1 for my editing, and I thought, this thing's pretty revolutionary. If you don't know anything about the M4 Mac Mini, we're going to talk about that today. We're going to check out the chat here, make sure everything is running as it should be, other than my touchscreen. Hey, we got Blind Tech in the house. There we go. Good to see you. Another great YouTuber. If you haven't checked his stuff out, let me know what you think, Blind Tech, about the M4 Mac Mini. We're going to do this unbox. We're going to set it up, and I'm going to try to get one of my project files to load, maybe from my other Mac. We'll see how we do this, because this is going to be my replacement editing station. Right now, when I want to do some editing, I got to drag this thing down, plug it in. Then I don't have the same color on both screens, so it's going to be interesting to see how my IPS gigabyte does back there. I'm going to check the chat here and see who we've got joining. Hopefully we've got quite a few of our old friends. There's a couple other interesting things I also wanted to share. I was away for the last weekend at PDX LAN. I've got some pictures from that I can show as we're letting people fill in. We're also going to answer any questions you might have about the M4, whether I can answer them, whether the chat can answer them, or the internet. We will use all three. I'm very excited for a few different things on this one. One, it's a lot smaller. The old one was a little bit bigger than the size of this box, and it's kept that shape for, a dozen years. And this is the first major redesign in at least the last decade. And so it looks a little bit more kind of like the Mac Studio, I think, maybe a shrunk down version of that as well. And we're just taking a look here. We got quite a few people filling in. Let me show you guys real quick the photos from the event I was over the weekend. You'll get to see some fun stuff and actually some prior builds that we've done on this channel. It's pretty cool. Hybrid Robotics is here. Welcome, Hybrid Robotics. Thanks for joining. We're going to get to unboxing this shortly. I'm going to show you real quick some of the pictures from my last event. So this was actually kind of a cool event. Went to PDX LAN. It's a charity gaming event for 4 days. There's 900 computers. This one was completely sold out, like all the remaining other ones. And we get to game with a bunch of our friends and hopefully family here. This was my setup. You probably have seen the one on the left before on this channel. That was actually my daughter's machine. So she had the Frostpunk 2 edition of the Sapphire graphics card. I went with the machine that's been in my backdrop over here for a while. I went and took down that 7950X AMD, and it was running hot. It was definitely a hot machine. I put a 360 AIO in the night before. Maybe I'll show you guys a little bit more about that. So that was a lot of fun, and then a couple extra fans, but it did pretty good. And I have the 7900 GRE in that one. Going along, there's my daughter and I playing the first night. When we got there, we did a little Fortnite, and she absolutely destroys me at Fortnite. It's kind of scary when your kids can beat you up so bad, but wanted to show you that. There's a little quick shot of the machine from underneath, and you can see the AIO. This is something I haven't shown yet on the channel, but this is the Chion M4. It's a brand new AIO model that has the thermal information right on the pump, and it actually has a pump that's not on the water block there. The pump's actually up in the AIO, so it's a different style, different model, which is kind of cool. Have to show this off just because some glory pictures here of some friends of ours on the channel and a mod. This is a very large monitor. This is one of my other friends, and his 55-inch curved gaming monitor. You don't think of how big that is until you have other ones alongside of it. There it is in all its glory. Looking down the line, I've got some other friends that were playing Duke Nukem. That was a really fun game. A couple people you probably recognize in there. So that was a fun thing. And then this is where things got really creative at PDX LAN. They have a custom case contest. And so this was a 4090 PC built inside the 4090 box. So when you buy a 4090, you get the box. This guy went all in and built an entire PC in here. This was another honorable mention. This was a very large PC. You don't get the scale unless you see that 4090 box next to it and realize this thing is like massive ATX. It's like 2 or 3 ATX cases. And then the biggest one, and the one that actually I believe won, is this almost like a fuel cell pod. Maybe I didn't get the reference here, but this one actually won the contest. Very, very creative people putting some really cool PCs together here. So I thought you guys might like that as a little aside, and we can come back to that if you guys want to take a look at it as well. Just checking the chat here. I can embed the chat, I think, and I don't know if I can do that here while we do our unbox, if people want to see that here. So I will get to doing the unbox. We're going to go in the top-down camera so you guys can see what goes on. I don't know if I have any... I took all the labels off. We got the standard, it's going to burn up and blow up if you open it wrong label. Let me see if I can get the camera dialed in here. So we're just right here. So everybody can follow along in the chat there. I'm going to go ahead and open it. So this is my first time opening an M4. So I've seen a couple online. Ooh, okay, this is super pretty. That is the full Mac Mini right there. Box, amazing. Now there's going to be a bunch of serial numbers here. You're going to get to see it. Let's see if it actually has what this one has in it for memory. That's another thing I was wondering about, if they would actually print, because on all the other ones they printed that out. It doesn't look like it. So it looks like the box is essentially going to be the same regardless of what you have here. So there's the back side of it with the carbon neutral packaging. I'm going to give you guys a view on the side here up close what it looks like. And Blind Tech says, I want to come out to the event there. That would be fun. It's 4 days of network gaming. It was really, really kind of fun. So we're going to go back to the top down, see if we can open this thing up, and we'll get to plugging it in. One of the unique things about this is they've gotten rid of the USB-A. So I'm going to pull these off here. USB-A is officially retired as a port type on this, but they did upgrade the number of ports. So if you're just joining in, we are opening the Mac Mini M4. So there's the box, and there is a first look at the unit itself. So very clean unit. It is super light. I was worried because with all the box and the packaging, it was pretty heavy. I'm gonna go ahead and do the peel reveal here. There we go. And we're going to talk about all of the different ports that it has in it. So interestingly, it has this kind of sticker on the bottom. Don't know if that was supposed to stay on the bottom of the Mac to not make it slide around. Doesn't look like it comes off. So there we go. That's the packaging. I'm going to save that, and we're going to pull out the power cord, which they've hidden here. They use this like, frustration-free packaging, but it's very awkward. I don't think you could ever put this back as cleanly. Maybe that's their thing, and they'll know you've opened it because you cannot wrap that back as cleanly here. So yeah, a great point there. Blind Tech says similar size to an Apple TV. Absolutely. I think it's basically 2 Apple TVs. If you stuck 2 on top of each other, it's just about that. And the thing that everybody loves to hate right now, they're hating on, the power button placement. And to be honest, I don't think I'm ever going to turn this thing off. It is just going to be permanently on. I saw somebody did a really cool thing. They mounted this under a desk, and they said, no, the power button's perfect because then you can reach the power button from underneath your desk the way they had it. Another guy had built a 3D printed cradle, and you push the whole thing, and it basically turns the whole thing into a big, massive button. So there you go. So that's the Mac Mini. Let's go through the ports real quick, and I'll go ahead and put this box off to the side. I wonder if there's a cool spot that I can put it here. Maybe I'll put it over here. There we go. Trying to think of somewhere. Does it go here? No, we'll put it back out here. So there's the Mac Mini box. We're going to go over what different ports that we get with this thing. And actually, I can bring you guys all the way down in here now. Perfect. So if you looked at the M2, they actually still had the USB-As. So this thing's pretty straightforward. You're going to have power. You're going to have Ethernet. Now, this one has a special thing when it comes to Ethernet. I did spring for the 10 gigabit. Now, I would have had this thing days ago, except for springing for the 10 gigabit because they didn't want apparently to release that one at the same time. So that's going to be something that slowed the delivery down. Now, what's interesting is they don't change at all. Give me 1 second here. There we go. I'm just going to be a little closer to you there so you guys can see me. So this is the 10 gigabit Ethernet. They don't change the logo at all. So I don't know if there's a way that you would know that this one is 10 gigabit capable. So I think they're doing a couple things to save costs. It's got HDMI output, which I actually prefer over DisplayPort, even though there's going to be some haters. And then we've got the 3 Thunderbolt 4. Now, this is not the Pro. The Pro has the Thunderbolt 5, which also has the same logo. I didn't see a different logo when I was looking at their unboxings. But you get 2 additional front ports, and the old one didn't have front ports. I have a lot of docking stations and other things for the Mini that add micro SD and other features, but this didn't have it. It does have the headphone jack, which is funny because we took the headphone jack away, then we brought it back, and apparently it's still here. I think an analog audio output is still viable to this day, still in use. What I love about this is when I go ahead and I mount this to my desk back here, my editing station, is it's going to allow me a lot better access to plug in my drives. So that was one thing I wanted to show you. When I am doing the show over here, and actually, so over here where I'm pushing all these buttons, that's my video switcher here. And I can show you something really cool. I can show you all my views at once, right? So I have a video switcher, and all of these camera angles that you see right now are being recorded to a SD or SSD, an external one like this one here. And that goes off to my editor, does stuff with them, makes shorter videos. But this one will allow me basically to take that drive and plug it directly in right in the front here, and I'll be able to read and write. Now, if I want to actually, I grabbed another accessory here. If I want to read and write micro SD cards, I've got this from Ugreen. They sent this one out for fair and honest review a long time ago. I've got a micro and standard SD card, plus another HDMI, which will give me a second video, plus a power pass-through, plus USB-A. So if you don't have USB-A, like again, you've got some devices possibly, you could always plug in an adapter like this, give yourself a couple additional ports, and most of them should work. So Wasam comes in here, says it's a sweet little device. Just got one. Awesome. Good to hear, man. The Mini is definitely computationally, if you look at the Geekbench score, this thing incredibly powerful. I'm still kind of upset about the storage. 256 gig is ridiculous. This one is up to 1 terabyte. Now, I plan on editing a lot of my projects remotely and not really even using the 1 terabyte that it's going to have. But I think that they went to 16 gigs. You know, talk about Moore's law and, you know, things doubling. It's really a travesty that they did not upgrade this. So that's the basic IO, no IO on the sides. Now, I'm not going to tear it down and go below this because you guys can pick up those teardown videos. I don't want to mess with this thing and accidentally break it or do something, because this is going to be my editing rig. But we will fire it up. We're going to go through all the setup process and you'll get to see all of that. If you do have questions in the chat, let me know. If you're just tuning in, this is John the Net Guy. I do product reviews on Amazon. You've probably seen me build gaming machines live on here. If you haven't subscribed, I would totally appreciate that. And if you're here just to scope out the M4 Mac Mini, you can do that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and plug the power in. Now, on my benchtop here, you can tell how many PCs I do because I literally have all the PC connectors right here. I have a wired HDMI. I have the standard PC power supply connector, so that's not going to do. And then I have my gigabit Ethernet. And actually, this is 2.5 gig on the bench here. I do have 10 gig fiber throughout the house, so we'll have to deal with that. But I'm going to go ahead and plug this guy in, and then I'm going to go ahead and plug the power, and then I'll be able to actually show you guys this thing booting up for the first time if I switch over to this input. I'm going to go ahead and put the chat off the side. If you guys want to see the live stream chat, you can totally see that. I just want to give you guys a bit bigger of a screen here as we turn this thing on for the very first time, which I'm going to do down here. I got the familiar Mac chime, so we'll see if it detects my HDMI properly. Hey, there we go. Now it's telling me to let my magic mouse free. So I actually do have a magic mouse here. So I'm going to use my magic mouse. I bought this separately, used it before. Now it's also saying to do that to my keyboard. So I did that to my mouse. I did charge this up earlier, so hopefully it finds that. And my keyboard has a power on the right side. This is an older Magic keyboard. I want to see if it'll allow us to do this. If it doesn't do this, then we're going to have some fun because I'm going to have to use an alternative. So I did that process and we will see. Uh-oh. So now I technically have an older Magic keyboard. It doesn't look like it's automatically finding those devices. This might be the shortest demo in a while. I might actually have to switch over to USB and see if it allows that. I'm going to find out here. There we go. I actually did just set up an M3 Mac. It went through the same process and didn't have any issues at all. So let's see here. We can cheat and I can plug in USB. We can do this the old-fashioned way, possibly. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and scoot over here and see if we can hook this up analog USB. 1 second. Because it does not like my older Magic keyboard. So this will be interesting. Brand new fresh batteries in the keyboard. So yeah, it doesn't automatically detect that. So we'll see if it's just a generational thing. If you know in the chat, let me know. See if you've run into this and or if you used a standard USB keyboard, which we may end up actually doing here. So I'll go old school. I won't even deal with wireless, but we'll see if it does support connecting with USB. So it does not have any USB 2 ports. So this is going to be interesting. I'm going to go ahead and plug in a standard USB 2 keyboard, which lit up and I'm getting some sound. So that's working. And I'm going to plug in a wired keyboard and we'll see if we can add those other keyboards. But so far, my Magic Mouse, it charged for a couple hours earlier, did not work. Yeah. So Alex is saying, pretty sure you have to repair them by USB first and then they should work. And actually, these ones had been paired prior to another Mac Mini. So I wonder if we're going to have some issues there. So these are not technically fresh. Let's see what we get. Okay, I have a mouse. I'm actually going low tech here. We literally went super low tech and we'll use these Mac. Oh, it's already explaining. So it does have some accessibility features we're finding out. It's telling me that if I want to be English, just hit the return key, which is kind of cool. I saw a couple games doing that. So, hey, one of our friends in the chat, Blind Tech, if he's having some problems reading the screen that we have, that's an awesome idea for them to use the screen narrator like that. So you can't find the screen narrator if you can't get to it. So we're going to do the setup here. We're going to go for United States because that's where I'm at. And that looks pretty straightforward to me. Accessibility, not just yet. Data and privacy. I normally turn all of this stuff off. I tend not to. And I'm actually not going to transfer any information. So I'm going to set this up as a brand new one. A lot of times I would recommend transferring if you have another Mac that you're getting rid of. But I tend to find that if I transfer from one to the other, I get this weird clone of one that doesn't necessarily work. And Blind Tech's given us some accessibility features here. He's talking about, I usually increase the size of the text instead of voiceover. So that makes it easier for him. Pretty cool. So I'm going to say not now here. And then I need to put my fancy Apple ID in here. So I'm going to take and go back out here to the main screen for a second while I do this. And I have to do a couple tricky things here so I can see what I'm doing without you seeing them. But I need to put my special Apple ID in. I'm really not trying to dox myself here. And we'll see if I can do that. Doesn't like that. Let's see what we can do from a different angle for just 1 second. We're going to put you on a side screen, guys. We're coming right back. I just don't want to accidentally dox myself, as you can imagine, computers being what they are. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my super secret code here, which is one-time use. So that will let me into mine. And as soon as it starts coming up, I'm going to bring you guys back in as promised here. So we're setting up the Mac Mini M4 here live on the show. I did read all this agreement at some other time. One of the things that's getting really crazy when it talks about these agreements is the forced arbitration clause, which I'm almost guaranteeing they have a forced arbitration in this one as well. Disney did this, Uber did this. What's happening is jury awards are getting so big that, when you have a product lawsuit that they'll, offer millions and billions of dollars. I think Texas is one of the few places that limits lawsuits and others, but it can literally bankrupt a company with just a single event or two. So I can kind of understand that from the company side, but we'll see, in the grand scheme of things, how it goes. So we're going to go ahead and do that. It's got my information in it. I'm actually going to change the login name to one that I normally use. And let's see, it did not like that, or it's still doing its spinning ball here. Okay. I'm using a completely insecure password, but we're not going to do it. And I'm going to say completely, I can't type today. Completely insecure password. Change it. And then I'm going to allow my Apple account to change my password, which is sweet. And then we're going to continue on. And if you're taking a look at the size of this machine, I'll bring you guys over on the top down while it's being set up here. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit more. So this is the size of the whole computer, and this is the size of my gaming mouse that I grabbed because it wasn't doing it. So you can see that there's an entire computer here in this little bit of an area. And then on the horizontal, look how thin that is. That's super skinny. So again, about the size of two Apple TVs. It's setting up my iCloud. It's bringing down all my cool stuff. I use Final Cut Pro as an editing tool, so hopefully I'll be able to install that. Hopefully we don't have too many updates here. If you're just joining, feel free to join the chat. The chat is cross-platform, so as you type in stuff, Restream can proxy it over to me so we can see. And then we're going to look at what options and things we want on. Device analytics, I like to turn all of the extra stuff off. So let's customize these real quick. We are going to enable location services because I do want to find my Mac. That's always good. I don't want to share my diagnostics or crash reports. I just don't want to send any extra data, even though they say that they anonymize this. I don't have the time for doing that. We're going to set up screen time later because I use screen time religiously with our kids, but I don't necessarily need to do it myself. Now, here's a tough one. Apple AI. This is a beta tool. How many people, let me know in the chat if you're interested in using Apple Intelligence here with your products. I'm going to leave it on for now. And we're going to see, I got the 16 Pro Max, so I'm waiting for my update till I'm going to get Apple Intelligence in Siri and see how she does, but I'll leave this on for now. Now, File Vault disk encryption is default, and I'm allowing my Apple ID to unlock. So I don't mind full disk encryption for performance. If you have an underpowered machine, I would turn it off. In this case, I'm going to leave it on, and hopefully they've got enough at the hardware level that it doesn't impact performance, but I'm just going to do that because that would be a standard default. Now, I tend to like dark mode, so we're going to click dark mode here. I'm going to stay on dark mode almost all the time, and it says welcome to Mac. So here we go, getting installed, and then we'll see how many updates and how long those updates will take, how the App Store is doing. But if you have any questions, feel free to just pound them away there in the chat. The chat is active. Blind Tech's helping us out in here. Oh, he says he's got Apple AI. Oh, let me get the right one on his 15 Pro Max. Now, I just got an alert on my phone that says I added a new machine, and I'm going to say, okay. So it allows my iMessage and my FaceTime to come over. That is the one thing about the Apple ecosystem, being able to iMessage when I'm working at work and I get an iMessage pop up on my PC or my Mac, technically, I can very quickly respond to it. I can do FaceTimes. So there's just a ton of utility being in the Mac ecosystem. They had a similar feature to OneDrive with the iCloud Drive. I still use OneDrive, Google Drive. I use them all, Dropbox. So, kind of use all of the technologies there, and it works very well with all of them. But, obviously works incredibly well. Keyboard setup assistant. This is the standard keyboard here. I'm using a PC keyboard, but we're going to go through and set up those Bluetooth devices here in a bit. And it's an ANSI US keyboard. So here we go. Basic Apple Mac Mini. I'm going to go ahead and get myself into the other corner here so we can see across the top. I want to see about this Mac here. So this is the Mac Mini that I picked up. It's the M4, 16 gig. There's my serial in case you really need it. And then we're going to go through and look at what kind of monitor it thinks I have. A 32-inch Blackmagic. That's actually just my capture device here. And then it's going to have my disk space available. So if you're wondering how much disk space do you get when you buy a 1 terabyte, well, it looks like I have 960 out of 994. So they got some amount reserved above the terabyte here. And then we have the full OS is about 40-ish gigs, maybe 35 gigs for the full OS. And then I want to see if there is any updates for the system here. I'm going to go look in the App Store real quick as well, because I want to get Final Cut downloading as well. And you know what I want to do is let's do this Blackmagic speed test. So this internal 1 terabyte drive, Blackmagic is one of the best speed testing tools that we have. So I'm going to use the disk speed test. We're going to see what the 1 terabyte performs like on a brand new system. Now, if I open up Activity Monitor, you're going to get to see the CPU and whatever's going on this one right now. If it is doing a ton of background updates or like disk encryption, we won't get a good test out of this. So we're going to run these. So there's a persistence agent running in the background. There's kind of a little bit of CPU use there. Let's look at disk usage to see if it's using the disk right now. So bytes written, bytes read. So it looks like that persistence agent is doing some data in the background here. And you can see down here per second. So it may not be a great time to do our disk speed test here when it's already reading and writing. So it's reading about 50 megabytes per second, or writing, sorry, about 17 and reading 1 or 2. So it's definitely doing some updates here. So we'll let it do that. Ooh, okay. So Alex is saying he would like to be really interested to see how Pixelmator Pro, now Apple native app, compares to the Adobe counterparts. What's funny is I'm actually using Affinity Photo instead of Adobe. I got tired of the Adobe tax, constantly paying every single month for basically the same app. I didn't even want to upgrade whenever they were constantly pushing their upgrades. So that is definitely one. It is kind of cool to have that ability to do the crossover to the iPad apps here too. There are a couple like the Wise app. I run the native Wise app on my desktop, which is kind of cool as well. Blind Tech checks in, says, I'm planning on buying Affinity Photo. There's some weird things about Affinity Photo, like the subject selection is not as good, but for everything else, the thumbnail you guys saw today on this video before you clicked it was actually done with that. More SSD capacity or RAM, tight budget here. Oh my gosh, that's a tough call. So you can upgrade the SSD. Now you have to do very specialized stuff. You have to get NAND chips that have never been written to. The upgrades that I've seen here, Wong, thanks for asking this question. The upgrades that I've seen were literally desoldering BMD chips, like chips that had to be soldered. I believe in the future we're going to see some sort of NAND flash storage that you can upgrade in here. So it is removable. The memory is not. So I went with the 16 gigs and then the SSD. Alex saying basically the same thing as well. Get more RAM, then get NAS down the road. Hey, Marshall, you should have been here 20 minutes ago. So the same question I had about the mouse and keyboard. I'm using this very large PC mouse and keyboard right now, very awkwardly, only because I couldn't get it to recognize one, but it was already paired, is my guess. So yeah, we'll switch over to that. Great answer there. So Huang, to answer your question, I would go with a little bit more memory. Now, the really comical thing about the memory on this M4 Mac now is that they literally have you could buy for the price of upgrading to 32 gigs and a 512 storage, you could buy two at 599 of the 16 and the 256. So it's still the same amount of storage and still the same amount of RAM, just split across two whole computers, and it's the exact same price as one computer. So that tells me that there's some pricing irregularity, let's say, because you're getting a CPU, you're getting power supplies, cases, everything else for the same price. That just shows you how awkward their upgrades are. I'm going to get Final Cut Pro going just because I need that to do some stuff. If you have an app that you want to see the loading time, we can do that. And let me know what you think of benchmark apps. I know a lot of people Geekbench on here. I don't do a lot of Mac benchmarking beyond the Blackmagic speed test, so that would be really cool. Blind Tech saying he uses DaVinci Resolve for editing, and I want to see the real-time rendering. So that's another huge opportunity. So a lot of creatives use Mac. A lot of people that don't want to deal with viruses use Mac. And again, you can flame me in the comments all you want. There are Mac viruses, but just the design and the security model around Mac is definitely leaning towards a more secure operating system. So, if I had to give a PC or a Mac to, one of my parents, I have given PCs to both of them, but I think a Mac would be a great option. This thing is so small. That's the one thing I'm noticing. Like the other one, the Mac Mini, was small when you compare it to a full-size machine. This thing is just small when you compare it to anything else. I actually have a stack of mini PCs. Let me do this. I'm going to grab the mini PC of Doom that you guys may have seen on my channel before. This is the one that came pre-installed with a virus. So this is the Ace Magic mini PC. This is the 8008. And just to show you the difference, when we talk about mini PCs or otherwise, this is the Ace Magic and this is the M4 Max. So it is smaller. This is an 11900, which this again is faster. This has two USB A and two of the HDMI LAN and so on. So this one technically has as many ports. It's 6 total, I guess. This one, 2 plus 3. So it's the same number of ports on the Mac. So it's keeping up there. Now this one has a fancy auto performance and silent button. So this one does not have that. It's just high performance all the time. This one, the memory and the hard drive are directly accessible here. And it has RGB RAM. So, if RGB RAM is your thing, but there you go. So that's the Ace Magic mini PC. So realistically, you're buying a mini PC with this. You're getting a very, very compact machine here. Decent overall. And I want to see the network performance here. I don't know if I actually have available to me. We're going to get back into the OS here. I don't know if I have it available to me, but hey, Final Cut installed pretty fast. I've got my network shares that have all of my network information. I just want to look real quick at the disk usage. So it is definitely reading and writing data pretty quickly. I think it's doing some sort of encryption of my disk after startup, because I did mention to it that I wanted to encrypt the disk. So I'm guessing that that's what this is. It's written already 6 gigabytes there. So that would be my guess. And Final Cut, incompatible audio units found. Okay. Now I wonder if these are ones that I've installed before and if it's just coming over with my account. That's really interesting because you wouldn't think that it would be incompatible right out of the gate, but that could be another issue. So there we go. There is my standard Final Cut that we know and love. Pretty slick. I'm going to plug in an external drive here real quick. I just want to see, this would be a good speed test of this SanDisk unit. So I installed a SanDisk 1 terabyte drive. Do I want to allow it to access removable storage? Yes. This is essentially my workflow when I edit video. So if I wanted to, and if Final Cut knew that there was video on that. So it looks like it's got all of my other files here. This is my Tech Day Live. This is kind of cool. So you'll actually see me when I do unboxings of products. I do them sometimes offline, and I do them with a bunch of different cameras. I actually have 4 or 5 camera angles. So I'll have different products. This is camera 6. Oh, camera 2, file 6. Give me 1 second. And so we want camera 6. That's the angle for my main camera. So there you go. You would see me. What am I doing here? This is some RV steps that are coming up when I do that. So, I can play back and edit this video here. What I want to do is I want to do the Blackmagic disk speed test on this external drive. So we'll get to see how quick. Now this disk here is the 1 terabyte one. So we're going to do Blackmagic disk speed test. I'm going to go ahead and pick the right disk. So select target drive. It's going to do a 5 gig test file. And we're going to say the Tech Day Live external drive. So we're going to see the disk IO. This is another option, actually, if you're looking at buying the base model and you want to add a really large drive. Well, you've got Thunderbolt 4. And so you've got, I think, 40 gigabits per second. So you've got an enormous bandwidth here to add external storage. That was what somebody else noted. And the review I saw earlier, the guy had a 4 terabyte external SSD for less than $400. And it was $400 to go to 1 terabyte, which I just spent on the internal storage. So had I to do it again, I might have gone to 512 and save the rest for some external. But I'm going to hopefully do a lot of my editing remotely here. So I'm going to go ahead and start this reading and writing. So that's not super fast here. That's the write speed's 100 megabytes per second. Now this is technically the B over there. Capital B is megabytes. So not getting a ton out of this SanDisk. Normally it does really a lot better. So we'll see. That's going to go continue around the wheel here. Let's see if it's done already. And then it's going to go into the read state. But it definitely is struggling here. Now, just being inconsistent here. Maybe there's an IO issue. Now, what's funny is I bet you this is shown on the activity monitor too, because we have activity monitor up. I wonder if it's looking at only the internal disk because it's not showing the Blackmagic writing. But that persistence agent is already over 10 gigs of data written. So I'm guessing it is encrypting the whole disk in here. That's part of why we're seeing it. There is zero noise coming out of this unit. There is no heat perceptibly coming out of the unit either. So that's another interesting thing. I'm feeling around. They've done an amazing job with the new, and actually I'll pull that up here in a second. But yeah, Apple has done an amazing job with the new M4, and the power supply is integrated. I've always wondered if they should use an external power supply like some of these other devices where you get a 19 volt, wall wart basically, but they've kept it all really tight here. I think the only advantage of an external power supply, especially if it was DC, is that you might be able to use this kind of in an embedded system. Maybe you're doing an RV or boat or travel trailer or something. You could use that much easier. So if you're just joining, we're taking a look at the M4 Mac Mini today, doing a live unbox. I'm getting it set up to do my editing. I thought we'd just chill out, do a quick test of it or two. I'm not super excited about the external drive performance here, but it is definitely still working on encrypting the disk because we told it that we wanted the file vault encryption turned on. So it's encrypting my local drive. It's not encrypting the traffic to this external drive as far as I know. So now it's going to go over to the read speeds, and not incredibly good. It could be this cable. I'll give it an out because these cables are very sensitive. I'm trying to think if I've got an extra cable. Sometimes I've seen the cable be the weak spot in here. And let me see if I actually have another rated cable I can use. We'll try that out. I don't want to steer you guys astray here. So not all USB type C cables are the same. They actually have very different performance profiles. So this one is a USB type C from Anker. Now, Blind Tech's come checking in with us. He says he's not going to buy the base model, 16 gig RAM. 512 should be fine, and use a NAS as external storage for the network. I think that's a good combination. I think the 16 gigs that comes default is great. I think 256 is just not even enough for your OS, because you're going to give at least 50, 60, 70 for OS and standard basic apps. So I could see at a minimum, if they'd have came out at 512 and it came out at $699, it would have been amazing. It would have been the PC killer. We wouldn't be selling any more mini PCs. They'd all be running these small Macs. I have a feeling that the low performance on this external drive is the cable related. So we're going to test a few things. And actually, I have the really short cable here, but I'll lose my recording. But I can do that. We can plug that one in as well. I'm going to let this thing finish just so we can see what speed it's running at. There's also another trick I'll show you guys if we can do that. And it just depends if I can get my system report. So if you go into your settings and you go to system report here, come down to USB or the Thunderbolt here, and you'll see what's plugged into it. And you'll see that this Thunderbolt port, bus 1 or 0 is 40 gigabit. You'll see bus 1 is up to 40 gigabit. You'll see bus 3 is 40 gigabit. Okay. So it's not on the Thunderbolt side. Let's go to USB. Now you see it has the 3.1 bus, then it has a hub, and you'll see the different items that are connected, and you're going to see the data rates here. So in this case, it's up to 480 megabit. I've got a card reader that it's seeing. So that's my other one. I've got my mouse and my keyboard. And this is the problem. So my Extreme SSD, because of the cable, is being limited to 480 megabits. So it wasn't the unit itself here. It wasn't the Black Magic that was doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the speed test. We're going to swap out the cable, and I'm actually going to stop the recording on this device. I'm going to pull this cable out. So this is the live recording that I was actually doing right now. I'm going to go ahead and swap this cable because I was using an Anchor USB-C cable that we have. It was much longer than it needed to be, and that was actually limiting us. So I'm going to go ahead and plug the native cable that comes with the SanDisk. So scratch those other results. They're not good. We won't put those in a review, but we're going to go ahead and see if I can do the same exact test. I'm going to select target drive, TDL. That's the one we want. And now we're going to see the actual difference, hopefully with a fastest. There we go. That's what I was expecting. So this thing is getting almost a gigabit out of it. It's getting 1,000 megabytes per second, 800. And then we're getting almost 800 a second read. So incredibly fast disk performance for an external drive. They're really decent. Now that I actually have both drives disconnected, I can actually plug the other drive in and we can see if it has the same thing. What's neat about this is you'll see all of these green check marks. This is so that you can actually edit raw video off of this disk if you have this level of performance. So I could basically edit Blackmagic RAW up to 12K with this level of disk performance. And I could even do H265 up to 8K DCI. So this is going to vary a little bit. But that means I can actually edit and read at real time out of those. So that was a pretty cool thing. I'm going to plug in the other drive that I just had over here recording. What's funny is we could see like the movie Spaceballs. If you guys watch that one where you see like the video going on, I could go actually to this drive and we could play back. This is my other external disc. This was actually recording the live stream. So I can come down to Extreme Pro, click on that, say open. And so this is a 2 terabyte version. So we were just testing the performance on a 1 terabyte. There we go. So that was my 1 terabyte show drive. And I can go ahead and hit this one. And this is the 2 terabyte version. Are we going to break a gigabit? Wow. Okay. So gigabit write and 940 on the read. So if you're using external storage, that's twice as much as a standard SSD. And we're not even talking about Thunderbolt storage or anything too crazy. Now, this is the SanDisk 2 terabyte. I believe these are the Pros. This is the SanDisk Extreme Portable SSD, and this is the Extreme Pro Portable SSD. So maybe that explains a little bit of the better performance here. But yeah, 900 plus. So I could go down here to 12K DCI 60 frames per second. Yeah, pretty crazy. So decent performance out of that. Let me know what you guys would use your Mac for. And did you know about the system report? So if you're ever having trouble, and that's what we just learned on this one, I'll go away from this and I'll come back. So let me show you guys one more time where that was. So if you come in here, and I think you can actually hit it under the more info, then come down to system report on your Mac. If you ever have problems with external devices and you think they're not performing as good as they could, come down here to USB. You're going to see all of your connections and what they're plugged into. Sometimes you might have a USB 2.1 hub. So this external device that I have my keyboard plugged into, it might actually be downgrading the performance here. So my mouse is connected to a 2.1 hub. But if I come down here, now there's this Pro one. If you click it, you're going to see that it has that up to full 10 gigabit performance. So we're getting really close to that. If we're getting 921, let's do the calculator on this. So 10 gigabits times 8 bits to a byte. So actually, how would we do that here? So let's do 921 megabytes times 8. So we're using 7.3 gigabits through that connection. So it's definitely scooting some data across that because there's 8 bits to a byte. So that's definitely working here. And if you ever need to go in here, it's kind of cool because it'll give you really raw data about your device or drive, which is pretty slick. So that's how we do that. I'm going to go ahead and plug this back into the ATEM over here that we use for the show. Now we know that that was the root cause of the performance issue. And then we'll see if we're done encrypting the drive now, and then we'll be able to come back here. So I'm going to go ahead and record the stream again. I'm going to go back to the activity monitor and we'll take a look. So disk speed test. Oh, it did measure the disk speed test. I do see that it's not doing the reading and writing anymore, at least not to the same level. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the main drive in this, and we're going to see, at least for my computer, what the raw performance is on this new Mac. So I'm going to bring this over so we can see the activity monitor as well. Oh boy. So internal storage definitely beats external storage when you can do that. So look at that. So now you're getting 3,000 megabytes per second. So that's an incredibly fast PCI interface there. That's what you get. And you can see every single type of file format I would be able to read. So for doing local read and write, this is going to be incredible. I'm not going to run this forever, even though there's plenty of available. I just wanted to do that. So the internal storage, definitely faster than external storage, but external storage is pretty darn quick, even compared to most PCs on here. Let me know if there's anything else that you would want to see on this. I've got my Final Cut is installed here. This is the kind of stuff that I would do. Let's go ahead and take a quick look. I don't ever use Safari, but I figure let's go ahead and take a quick look at the apple.com page, and we'll go through their configurator and see what they want to charge for one of these. So if we go up to the Mac, and then we're going to go over to the Mac Mini with the new one. This was supposed to be, because this is the 10 gigabit Ethernet version, this was supposed to be a lot further out, like in the like after Thanksgiving, the 22nd to the 27th. I saw this thing shipped so fast it actually got here earlier today, and I was like, hey, it's Tuesday, I'll do a quick live stream. Anybody that's interested, you guys take a look at it. So there is the Mac Mini. That's the size of it. There's the keyboard options that they're giving you. I may or may not use the keyboard. I also have a touchpad, which is kind of cool for editing video. So they're saying 20th of the size, up to 6 times faster. Another great opportunity to use one of these. I just picked up an M3 iMac, but our church is kind of going back and forth. We do a lot of streaming. These things are incredible for streaming performance. Now, we don't have necessarily the NVENC encoder that you'd get from an RTX card, but the video toolbox is no slouch when it comes to encoding. And I would love to see what FFmpeg can do with this, because our old 2017 iMac at the church takes hours. It takes longer than the sermon is to encode the files. So it's less than 1-to-1. And, with this M3, we're kind of excited because it's a big upgrade, but you're limited on the M3 on the iMacs to either a studio display or a 24-inch. So you've got kind of to choose between those. And so we got the 24-inch. We came from a 27-inch. And so we're kind of having to go back and forth here. But this will be a really interesting look. There's all of the different connectivity. So technically, they gave you an extra port. We have 5 ports. 3 are Thunderbolt capable here, which is really slick. There's that airflow that we were talking about. So very excited to see the thermal performance. As far as the reviews that I've seen of this so far, nobody's really been able to get that fan to make much noise, except on the Pro. When they were doing some benchmarkings on the Pro version, there was a little bit of extra noise in there. Considering how small this is, especially if you buy, it's a $179 upgrade, but the touch keyboard that has the fingerprint reader, this could be a really cool little desk setup. You don't have to remember passwords. I kind of like the Windows Hello thing, but it's kind of faded away. But this, you would just touch your finger to the keyboard and you'd be right in. Again, very good for DaVinci Resolve here. There's some editing. We could edit something in Blender as well. There's a lot of cross-platform capability there. I did not do a ton of coding on here, but they have different. They've got Xcode or whatever, and you can do all sorts of editing. You can run in parallels. You can run VS Code if you want to do that kind of development. But you can run Parallels and run full Visual Studio if you want. There's some other apps. It looks like GarageBand. So a lot of creativity apps in here. And yeah, this is really, really slick. So if I go here, and I'm going to see if it'll let me do it. Let's see if I have a photo from today that I want to share. Okay, I'll share a fun one. I'm going to go ahead and send, and I'm going to airdrop to my Mac Mini. So now it's going to come up in the corner that my face is in. But it just said, hey, I just received a photo in this corner. What do you want to do? I want to open it. So from my phone, I can instantly share pictures. That was us leaving the event. We had 3 tables, 4 different computer systems, monitors, and everything. And so that was just a picture from earlier in the show. I opened up with an event that we were at this weekend. But I can basically go from my phone directly to this. I can also check my chat messages, which I won't do on this live. Definitely don't want to dox myself. But yeah, it's got FaceTime, it's got iMessage, it's got all those things. And you wouldn't believe how convenient it is to have those. And so again, very easy to interop. We were just taking a look at the Mac page for the iMac here, or sorry, the Mac Mini. I have to keep saying that because I keep thinking iMac. Now, gaming, I don't know about this. I saw some game performance earlier. They had Shadow of the Tomb Raider running on this thing at like 40 to 80 frames per second, 80 on the Pro, so the $1,600, $1,300 model. And that's abysmal when you think of PCs. Like, we built $400 PCs on this channel that can game better than that. So while they're doing a really good job and they're trying to port more games to the Apple Silicon, the Apple hardware, I don't think that this is going to be a strong long-term gaming platform. It's kind of cool for Minecraft and other things, but I really wouldn't hang my hat on this becoming a $599 gaming machine. Now, if you've got a kid in college, this could be really cool. I think that would be really good. Green Dragonist, Green's in Mac gaming. Yeah, I don't even know why they do that. And that's a PlayStation controller. Maybe you plug the PlayStation controller into your Mac and it makes it like super fast or something. That's pretty funny. But there we go. There is the higher bandwidth ports. So it's talking about the difference here. I guess we can select what we currently have. So if I've got an M1 Mac Mini, which I have an M1 MacBook Pro, it's going to show me the 2.2 times faster gaming and then 2.5 times performance. So pretty slick overall. I'm going to go ahead and just go to the configurator here so you can see the difference. This is the thing that was so frustrating, is the pricing on these. For me as a creator, I'll make this back. I'll write it off and I'll make it back here, in a couple weeks of creator income. So it's not a big deal and that'll help out. But $599 for the 16 gig of unified memory. So that's shared memory. Now, when they were doing some tests, I was looking at the M3. When they were doing tests of 8 gig versus 16 and doing DaVinci and other things, it was 20 to 30% slower with 8 gig. So the fact that they cut the 8 gig tier off, good on you. Apple needed to do that. But the fact that they still have this just abysmal 256 gig SSD, this one right here should have been the lowest tier and at $699. I don't know why they fought so hard for this price. to keep it so low when they're gonna to cheap out on the storage. And again, you can add external storage. I will show you guys a trick with my MacBook. They make a very slim micro SD that will not exceed the footprint of your Mac, but gives you the ability to use 1.5 terabyte micro SD chips, which is really good. So there's an option here. So Green's checking in, says we could use it for Parsec, remote into a server gaming PC as a night option. Yeah, but then I could use my mini PCs or other things. Parsec's definitely good for high refresh rate gaming and other stuff. That's another good point there. But one thing that was interesting is you could literally, by the time you took this unit, and let's select that. I'm gonna put one in the cart here. So if I take this single unit here, it's got gigabit Ethernet, and again, not a bad machine. The price point is incredibly low. They kept it as low as they could, and even doubling the memory, giving yourself a 20% uplift on the CPU performance. But as soon as you go to 32 gigs, which is double the memory, not that you would necessarily do that, you've gone up $400, and you go up just one notch on the storage. So you're at $11.99, so $1,200. You've literally doubled the specs on only two of the settings, and you could have two entire computers for the price. So the rest of the computer is basically free at that point. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell people. I really struggled of whether or not to go 24 gig. And I kept it at 16 only because I haven't had any problems. So my configuration exactly is the 16 gig with 1 terabyte. And I only did that in case I wanted to edit locally for some reason. If I had a big project, I could bring it down local. But I did upgrade to the 10 gigabit Ethernet. So I'd be able to have 1,200 megabytes a second read and write. And I have a really strong NAS. So my total price was $10.99. And then tax and everything drove it over 1,200 because we're in 10.5% sales tax land. So I paid over that. But again, strong configuration for you, Blind Tech. You were talking about getting the 16512. That's $800. That's a solid machine for $800. So awesome. But yeah, this is John the Net Guy. I would recommend one thing if you haven't already. If you're watching me on YouTube, how did I type this? youtube.com/thenetguy. If you haven't already, if you could give me a sub down here, that would be fantastic. Awesome. I would appreciate it. Good to see all you guys checking in. I'm going to make a ton more content. I will specifically test a couple things that we didn't get to today, which is loading a Final Cut project. I want to see how the editing speed is, but I'm going to have to do a lot more things not live to do that. So I'm going to test that out. And if you haven't, on Amazon, if you visit my Amazon shop, link is in the video description, shop/thenetguy. If you visit here, and not that one apparently, I have to spell my own name right. Sorry, that's a little bit beyond my capabilities on a live stream. If you do the Net Guy, you'll see all of the other videos I do. I do tons of video reviews. I try to do some live streams here and there to make it interesting, but honestly, I haven't done a ton recently. We've had a lot more things going on, but I play with all sorts of really cool tech. I actually have some new emergency tech coming up. So these battery backup banks, some pretty large ones that could actually back up your house. I've got some of the cool stuff coming. But if you could come out here and give me a follow in the upper corner, it'll also let you know when I go live, which is awesome. So I want to thank you guys all for tuning in. Again, you guys are what makes this possible. The Mac Mini here today. Fantastic little device. I can't wait to really break into it and push the envelope and test the limits of this. If you have something like a game that you're interested in, if you have a program that you're interested in, let me know about it. If it's something that I can download and get or a trial copy of, I'll throw it on here and we will check it out together later. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And I'm going to take the last few questions we got. Can I install apps on external storage? That's a great question because I don't think I've ever done that. I'm almost certain you can run apps off of alternative storage in different locations because you don't have to have them in your app bank from what I remember. But I don't know if you can actually install. So that's a great question for the chat to answer if somebody else knows the answer on that. But I have run apps from other areas. So, a lot of times Mac makes it really, really easy because they shove all of the dependent files for an app underneath. Like my Final Cut had a lot of stuff under there before. So that might be another reason to get the larger storage. but that would be great. So here we go. Green's checking in. If you're in it for these productivity apps, it's great, but it's for professionals for sure. I feel like always a nice Ryzen NUC is far more economical. And actually, I just deployed for $350 a Ryzen 6600H NUC PC. So yes, I've been deploying those for a friend of mine who has an office that has lots of computers, and they're just an incredible value, those NUCs. So I might have a video of that coming out here pretty soon. So thank you guys all for tuning in. That has been the show for today. I will catch you guys all in a future video. Make sure to tune in on Tuesdays and follow and subscribe if you can. That is the Mac Mini M4, and I've been John, the Net Guy.